once calling and many calling. While the principle of critical selection, emphasizing Amida's choice of the Nembutsu as the only effective practice for ordinary people, was first articulated by Honen, it was Shantao who determined that the practice specified in the 18th vow was, in fact, recitative rather than contemplative Nembutsu. Shantao's commentary on the Sutra of Contemplation on Amida Buddha was an epoch-making work, for previously that sutra had been interpreted as a guidebook to meditative practice for spiritually endowed bodhisattvas. Shantao, by contrast, regarded the incident that occasioned its preaching, a prince's regicide and usurpation of the throne, as the opportune historical moment for Sakyamuni Buddha to present the Pure Land teaching and encourage recitation of the Nembutsu as the essential practice for all. Shantao's Nembutsu teaching, as received by Honen, is succinctly stated in an often-quoted passage from Shantao's commentary, quote, "With single-heartedness solely saying Amida's name, whether walking, standing still, sitting, or lying down, regardless of the occasion, whether for long or short, this is called the act by which one's birth is truly settled, for it is in accordance with that Buddha's vow." Close quote. For Shantao and Honen, devout men who had arrived at a realization of the compassion embodied in the primal vow through arduous spiritual journeys, with single-heartedness solely saying Amida's name throughout their days and their lifetimes, was to live in accordance with that Buddha's vow. But for one seeking to follow this apparently straightforward teaching, there naturally arises a basic doctrinal question. If the virtue of the name resides with the Buddha's practice and not man's act, why is it encouraged to say the name continuously, especially since the sutras state that 10 utterances or even 1 is enough to ensure birth? To answer this question, Honen states, quote, "As to entrusting, you should believe that birth is settled with a single utterance. As to practice, you should continue throughout your life." Close quote. In other words, the statements in the sutras concerning 1 or 10 utterances, while accurately revealing the all-embracing nature of Amida's compassion, should be understood not simply as numerical counts, but in terms of the practicer's attitude in saying the name. They refer to the firm, single-hearted trust in the power of the vow that one should bring to every utterance, and with such faith one should say the name as often as possible. Honen is unequivocal in his advocacy of the Nembutsu as the only practice leading to birth, taking a position more thoroughgoing than that of Shantao, who affirms supportive practices such as meditative Nembutsu. The question concerning the number of times one should say the name persisted, however, growing into a debate over the 2 aspects of the Nembutsu that Honen sets forth in the quotation above: faith and practice. The complete integration of these 2 elements in Honen's own religious life eluded some of his followers, who had difficulty determining the relationship between them, and versions of the teaching giving greater weight to one or the other as the act in accordance with that Buddha's vow developed, spawning the doctrinal controversy over once calling and many calling. Those who inclined toward once calling argued for the centrality of faith, emphasizing that birth in the Pure Land was ensured in the first instant of trust in the vow, expressed with a single utterance, and they rejected repeated utterance as a sign of doubt and irresolution. Those on the side of many calling relied on the encouragement to continual recitation found in scriptural sources and on the concept of practice that is common to all Buddhist paths, and they denounced once calling as the advocacy of negligence and presumption upon the power of the vow. Both positions deviated from Honen's teaching and caused dissension among Nembutsu practicers, and an extreme version of once calling even led to friction within the larger society as well, by encouraging a form of antinomianism termed the heresy of licensed evil. According to this belief, Since no act is so evil that it can obstruct the working of Amida's compassion, any hesitation to commit evil that one is led to by one's karma is a sign of insufficient trust in the primal vow. Resolution of this controversy from Honen's position lay in maintaining the delicate balance between emphasis on continual recitation, which could easily lead to Nembutsu as an act of self-power, and emphasis on complete entrusting to the other power, which, pursued doctrinally, seemed to deny any need for continued attention to the name at all. But as a revolutionary thinker, Honen had to defend his newfound path against attack from older schools by reiterating that the Nembutsu was indeed a practice in the Buddhist tradition, although it originated from an entirely different source. By doing so, he exposed himself to the same criticism he had leveled against the traditional forms of practice, dependence on self-power. Moreover, various assumptions inherent in Honen's position tended to encourage continual recitation, the most important being the belief that Amida comes to welcome the faithful at the moment of death. Considered in the light of this belief, the saying of the Nembutsu took on the role of ensuring Amida's appearance at the deathbed, when the working of true compassion would reach its culmination. The debate over once calling and many calling raged among Honen's followers in the capital, both during the master's lifetime and after his death, and also appeared as a central issue among Shinran's followers in the Kanto district.